Welcome back, guys. This is Thanks for Your Money, and we're going to review hands played in PLO Vision. So let's jump into the action. And so here we are out of position without hearts, so I think this has to be a check. Plus, we do not have that many aces, so it's a check 100% of the time. Even with the ace 7 of hearts. And I think this is going to be a check call. Well, now we want to check, and we check 98% of our range. We even check with the ace of hearts. I wonder here. So with the ace of hearts, we would pot 70% of the time. And we do not hold just I mean so we are potting 50% of the time with a nut flush. When we are bluffing, we are potting like 60% of the time. Okay. 4-3-3. I think this is a easy fold. I think. Jack 8-6. I think we can see bet because our flush draw is pretty high. However, if the flush draw is to the 5, we would check on this particular instance. In this instance. I would just pause here and we have a gotcha. Just call. Call again. Okay. Well. I think I would call. We have 3 hearts on a pair draw. We have 3 hearts, so we are blocking the continuation bet of our opponent, and we also hold the 10 jack combination, which is good because we are blocking the 10 9 8 end of hands. So I think this is a bet. I think we have to bet like 50% of the times here. I would check with this combo. Yeah, we are betting 45% of the time. Okay, it's queen 6 and the pre-flop aggressor checks back. I think we have to bet like 40% of the time here, just 32% of the time, because he may have aces still. I think here I want to bet because the pre-flop aggressor may have aces or a pair with a flush draw, something like that. And yeah, on those pair boards where when the pre-flop aggressor checks, we're betting 50% of the time. Without a heart, without a 3, yeah, we're checking way more often. Okay. Yeah, so we are betting the hands which block a 3, like those 3 draws. 5, 6, 7, and 6, 5. 6, 5. Without a 3, are betting 65% of the time, so pretty often. 6, 5. Okay. I think I would just call here without hearts, and also the thing is that we are calling very often here. We would raise some of the time with hearts. Yeah, with a 4 we're only raising 24% of the time, so a 4 with hearts, for example. Okay. I think this is a good candidate to donk, because we do not really want to call with this hand, but we are we have something to play. Okay, now we are checking. Well, we are checking so often here. Okay. So here we are going to check probably as well. Yeah, apparently with those low cards, we are checking a lot. Maybe the reason is that our calling range is, well, it's probably quite, we have a lot of holdings here. Do we check raise? I don't think so. Okay. This is, I would call here. Yeah, because we do not have hard draw, and if our opponent has kings, we are completely screwed. So mm, mm, bet, yeah. Why is he betting this? Well, maybe he thinks this is too weak to call. Let me see. Too weak to call. Here we are blocking the king high flash. Check, but we are checking this one. Okay. Well, I think this is a check. Bet. Well, it's kind of mixed strategy. And we have to, I think we have to check back a lot this. I think we can check all this. Yeah, we are checking 80% of our hands. Raise. Okay, it's like mixed strategy. I would just fold here. call. Yeah. Um, well, we have to call. And we're probably check calling here. Okay, what do we do here? We do not have backdoors, so just betting. Backdoor spades. I bet. I think this has to be a check four. Check, okay. Although we want to bluff hearts, we're checking very often on that board. Okay, we're betting with the blockers. bet, really. Okay, let's see, 6, 7, 9. Okay, let me see. We do not have showdown equity. This is a board that we're going to check a lot, but okay, we are betting this particular combo quite often. Do we go all in? No, we just go. I would bet fold or check fold. Check, really. Okay, I think bet. Yeah, with these particular sixes and deuces, you use them sometimes as you have some equity if called, unless he has king queen. And here, when we make the nut flush, we are supposed to bet like 30% of the time. Although here probably a bit more just because he checked on the flop, so his range is very weak, so we are supposed to bluff a bit more often. So I think we can bet 50% of the time here. Okay, no, I was very off. So actually we're betting 90% of the time. But let me see something else. Okay, so any particular ace, we are betting 50% of the time. And when we are bluffing, we bet also 50% of the time. And we tend to bet the ace of hearts when we do not hold a pair. You see, when we are, if we have like ace 6-6, for example, no, we are also bluffing here. So we bluff the ace of hearts without equity, and we bet 50% of the time with our nut flush. For example, if we have ace jack, aces and jacks. What do we do with aces and jacks? Okay, ace. So yeah, bet like 50% of the time. Okay, what do we do here? I think that we want to check. Just check calling probably. Okay, check. What do we do here? I think we bet, really. So yeah, with the spades, we like, what is this? So second pair and a flush draw is just a bet. And here is like mixed strategy. We're blocking 10 jack and we have backdoors. And we have the key card to 10 of hearts. So I would just bet here. But it's like 50-50. Okay, 5-4 deuce. I think here we can bet 50%. No, just for 30%. Okay, here I think 30%, 35%. Yeah, so just betting 30% of the time. Yeah, the button has a lot of jacks on his range. Wonder what do you do with a jack here? So with a jack you're going to bet just 40% of the time. Because you are checking so often, you are not allowed to bet all your jacks. Okay, 356. I think you're going to check back this a lot. Just 20% of the time. Yeah, but we have the 4, so back the spades. No, just check. Apparently it's not enough. 356. Now we are checking even more than that. I think this is a nice hand to put into our betting range. I'll check really. So bad this can go. Okay, in 9-10. Okay, 30%. So if we are betting 30%, well, this has to be a check then. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on with the software. That's 15%. Yeah. Why is that? Well, because we have less flush draw to the nuts than our opponent. Here, this has to be a check for. Ah, bad, really. After the other player checks the flop, I think we can bet 50% of the time out of position. And that's 40%. Here we're blocking a 6 and we have okay. Okay, we're checking almost always there. I think we have to check 30. Yeah, sorry, there's 5-7. Okay. Jack 8-6. This is going to impact the button range a lot. Okay, 9%. $33. Okay, if we are checking back a lot whenever there is a low pair, the question is which kind of hands are we going to bet? For example, are we betting a 6 and the as we are checking so often, we also have to check quite often a 6. Are we checking 9s? So yeah, I think a good rule of thumb is if you are going to check this board 85% and you're only betting 15%, then you can bet your good hands 30% of the time. Like with a 6 or with 9s or with aces. With aces we're betting just 20% of the time. Aces and hearts 23% of the time. So what are we doing with ace, king, queen, jack? We are checking almost always. we're betting sometimes we do not flash draw. So, and the other hands that we are betting are um, blockers, for example. Ace Jack 7-7, we are betting pretty often, especially with the ace blocker. Okay, 6-9-10. I think this impacts a lot with the button calling range. So I think I have to check back a lot. Yeah, even more than that. For deuce, we said that we're going to c-bet this just 40% of the time. 24% of the time. Okay, yeah, I think the reason is because there are not that many fours in our calling range, in our opponent's calling range. He has a bit more fours. And okay, so if we are c-betting 24% of the time, what do we do with a 4? We probably can bet this 50% of the time out of position. Yeah, 46% of the time. How often are we c-betting aces? 40% of the time. And what about something like fives? Okay, we're betting those fives without a 4. We're c-betting those 40% of the time. And kings? Okay, we're c-betting a bit less often with kings. Just 30% of the time. So what else are we betting? Are we betting this very weak hand? Okay, so we are betting some bluffs which are blocking our opponent's calling range, and then we are betting some percentage of the time with a 4 or with aces, with kings. Okay, a7-6. So I think we can see bet this 30% of the time, 21% of the time. %21 of the time. So I think we can use this as a blocker and we can bet this 50% of the time. Check. No, we are always checking this. Why is that? Okay, yeah. So apparently there is a big difference between 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now between king 10, 10, 4 with the 10 of hearts and king 10, 10, 4 with the king of hearts. And the king 10, 10, 4 with the 10 of hearts, you are checking this hand. But with the king 10, 10, 4 with the king of hearts, you are betting this hand, at least some percentage of the time. Just because you are blocking a bit better the flush draws. Okay, 7, 8, 9. I think we have to check this a lot. 15% of the time. So because we have to check this a lot, then what do we do with the 10 jack? Well, this is for sure a check. But with the 10 jack, I think we would see that this like 30%. So as you are checking back, as you are betting only 15% of your hands, with your good hands, you can double this amount, then see bet twice as much, um, twice as much as you see bet any particular hand. Then jack with, 10 jack with 0 hearts, you're also going to see bet 30%. What about, okay, almost the same. Here we have a 10, and we have the ace of hearts. So we have two relevant blockers. So I think we can bet. No, we are checking. Okay, we are checking, but okay, because we have the second nut. Sorry. Yeah, this is a check for sure. But if we had ace ace 10 5, I think yeah, we would bluff this somehow often, 40% of the time. If we have, I don't know, 10 jack, okay, if we have 10 jack 9 9, just 30%, okay. Okay, 4 5 7 is a hand that we have to check back a lot, but we check and the button checks as well. So I think we can bet 30%, 46. Yeah, so this is a hand, and on the flop we are out of position and we have to check again. But I think we can start betting a bit more often when the button shows weakness. Which kind of hands would we bet here? Probably not this hand. So yeah, that's why we have to bet so often, because our range is so weak. I think with an 8, no pair, I think we want to bluff. No, really. We always check that one. So when we block clubs, we bet. However, if we have a club draw, and now we tend to bet as well. Well, so what do we do with club draws here? 50-50. So yeah, okay. So okay. So we are checking back. We are betting 36% of our hands. So with 8 and 9, we are allowed to bet twice as much, so 70%. Even more here, like 86% of the time. It's pretty similar with a nut flush draw or without it. What do you do with 8-7 and without a 9? Yeah, like twice as much you bet here. Okay, 7, 8, 10. So the 7, 8, 10 is a board which you can lead like 30% of the time. And since it goes check check, you probably can bet here 50% of the time. And just 30% of the time. Okay. So with 10-9, you bet this 50% of the time. So King 10A, this is a board that you're going to check a lot because your opponent may have kings. Although, yeah, so you're checking back. You're betting just 12% of the hand of the time. So because we're checking so often, you absolutely well, you're going to check that one for sure. With kings, I think you can see bet this 20 or 30% of the time, just 20% of the time. And kings without hearts, just 30% of the time. Okay, so since you're going to check this so often, you're going to check also a lot of your kings. It says 5-4. Well, yeah, this is a check back for sure. Okay, deuce 5-10. This is a board that you would probably check back a lot on the big blind. Maybe you would bet 20% of the time, then it goes check, check. So here you're probably allowed to bet 40% of the time, 35% of the time. So because you're allowed to bet 35% of the time, what would you do with wins? You bet 60% of the time with those. With tens, 50% of the time also. What about King Jack? King Jack without a queen. Okay, deuce 3-4. This is a hand that 20%, maybe you want to lead 15%. This has to be a check because you are not blocking very well your. Here you have two relevant blockers, which is the King of Hearts and the Five of Hearts. Although, so you may want to bet this 1/3 of the time, because as you are checking so often, and you're only betting 15% of your hands, you may this you can bet this hand twice as much, so maybe 30% of the time. Yeah, 39% of the time. Bet. This looks pretty weird. Okay, you have the queen, which is blocking some flush draws, but the okay. without a heart, this has to be a check 100% of the time. Okay, you have backdoors as well. Here you do not have hearts or a 5 or a 6, so this has to be a check. Here you have a pair of deuces and a 9 of hearts, but I don't think this is enough to bet. No hearts. Here you have a 5, no hearts, but you have some backdoor flush draw. So I think you can bet this maybe 30% of the time. Bet. How often? Okay, you are always betting this. Okay, so this is kind of your bet for. It's pretty interesting that you would check with a flush draw because you want to see the turn, but you would fold if you bet and get raised, you would fold here. So that's interesting. Deuce reform, for example. I don't think you want to bet call this, so you're probably just going to try to go to the turn. So yeah, you're checking 100% because you want to see a turn. Okay, Jack 6. And it goes check. The Jack 6, we're going to check this maybe 80% of the time. So if we're betting this 20% of the time, now the king arrives, so I think we can bet maybe 30% of the time. No, even less than that, because he has more kings than we do, probably. And what do we do if we have a jack? We are checking back quite often because we have to check back this a lot. If we have kings, we're probably going to bet not that often at all. Just make it twice. 12 times 2, 24. Maybe we can bet this 20% of the time. So we are deciding to bluff this combo 50% of the time. But we check that one. We have to check this. We have to check this. We can bet this 50% of the time. 100% of the time. But we are betting this one 50% of the time. This 50% of the time. 50% of the time. I'll check. We are checking this one. Check. Check for sure. Now I think we can bet our hand 20% of the time, something like that. 52% of the time. Okay, so although we are checking this a lot, we can bet like 50% of the time. This is going to be at bet 20 to 30% of the time. And we're checking always, in fact. I think we're going to bet this 30% of the time. 40. Yeah, like 40% of the time. So yeah, when your opponent has the kind of the range advantage, then you cannot bet all your good hands. That's okay. Here, I think we have to check this a lot. 11% of the time only. So I think we're going to check this. I mean, we're going to bet like 20% of the time, twice as much, but okay. Let's say we bet this 16% of the time. 27. So maybe we can bet this 50% of the time. Check. And we're always checking back. So 27. 20. So with tens, we are going to see bet 50% of, that's 35% of the time. And with fives, 60% of the time. Because we want our opponent to call with ace king jack 10 kind of hand. And with deuces, 60%. So this has to be a check. Although we are betting sometimes with this particular combo. I think that you can bet this maybe 30 to 40% of the time. Just 10%. Just 10% of the time. So these we're going to check a lot as well. This we can see at 30% of the time. Well, we'll see it sometimes. Use 510. I think we can see that this 30% of the time, 50% of the time because we have blockers. Check. So I wonder which kind of hands are betting then. Aces are betting 30%. Tens 30%. Fives 60%. Okay, fives and deuces are betting a lot. And I don't know, a 9, 10 jack, 20%. So yeah, I think that the point is that I think you can see bet with all your range just 30% of the time. Except with the king queen 9 without a pair, you seem to check a lot. Okay. 3-5-5. I think that you can lead here 15% of the time. %15% of the time. So no hard. Although they're blocking a little bit. Yeah, this is a good hand to bet out, although you do not have You are blocking the fives, and you have some a deuce, and the six gives you a pretty strong hand. And you do not have showdown equity right now. 5-5-3, you want to check call this. This you want to check call. Jack 10, 10, 7. With a 5, I think you can lead maybe 30% of the time. Yeah, you can lead 30% of the time, so twice as much as the amount you are betting. With 2 hearts, you probably want to. So you can lead 30% of the time. We do not flash draw particularly. With bad flash draw, okay. Ace Jack 7, I think we can bet 35%. 75%. Oh, so I was very off. So okay, so you want to get out with an ace with some. Yeah, so with almost everything. This one bet. Okay, because you have one backdoor, king, queen, ten. So yeah, the point is that you have so many good hands here. You have so many good hands that you can see that very, very often. You're going to check back some queens. Just 7%. That's 30. $16. So probably with aces you are going to bet a lot here, 70%. With a 3, like 70% as well. With 5s. 6, 4, 70%. Okay, 6, 7, 8. Bad. Bad. So with a 9, just with a heart. So with a heart and a 9, you're allowed to bet here. No, just check. Because you only have one blocker. You don't have good blockers here. You just have one blocker. Not enough good blockers. So yeah, the point remains that with the nuts you're only going to see that 30% of the time, just because um, you have to check back this so often. Okay, it's queen 10. You can probably see that this 70% of the time. And that's 36%. Why is that? Okay, because his range is not composed of so many aces. We saw that early position against button, he could see bet 70% of his hands. But here, not that many. So you wanna see bet this. Check. What the fuck? Okay, yeah. You want to check for the particular reason that if you bet and get raised, you are not going to win either. 10 are very bad cards to have because you're not going to have a full house that often. So you are blocking your outs to make a full house. Right? It's like 8%, two outs less twice, so it's like 8% less equity. So that's why you want to check call and probably bluff turns when the flush arrives. King 6 goes check, check. You cannot really be that aggressive here. That's because he's going to have some kings, some aces, so you have to be very careful here. Even with something like a king, you are going to check back this quite a lot. Or with a king, you are just going to bet 30% of the time. Even if you have aces. And you have some aces like rainbow wizards that you didn't want to 3-bet. Okay, king, queen, jack. How often should we see that here? Just 20% of the time. So this we probably want to bet this 50% of the time. No, actually we're checking 95% of the time, which looks a bit crazy to me. So often. Okay, because what about is king 10 queen? Wow, really? That often? I don't understand this. But we're betting this combo. I don't get it. Why do you check back ace 10 but you bet this particular combo? Okay. Now we have to fold. Okay, 3, 4, 6. We probably want to have a leading range 20% of our hands. But now he checked back, so 35%. 37%. 37. So maybe we can lead this 70% of the time. 71%. Yeah, I think that's too weak. I think this 70% of the time we can bet this combo 60% of the time. This combo we can bet 70% of the time, 53% of the time, with the blockers and the spades. I think we want to check this bet. Okay, we're blocking the spades. We have a 5, we have the ace of spades. So we have two relevant blockers, so we probably want to bet this 70% of the time. Now we're just betting 30% of the time. We're betting when we have the spade draw. We are not blocking hard, so no, I think that's too weak. Yeah, here we're blocking two relevant outs, the ace of hearts and the ace of spades. So this is an easy bet, 70% of the time. Here, no pair, just one blocker, no spades. One blocker, one pair of 9, one spade. Yeah. I don't think that's enough. No, we're betting this. Okay, so we're betting spades. And hearts. And we have to check. No bet. No, this has to be a check. Check. I think we can bet because we have one pair of tens, the hard draw. So I think that's enough to bet 70% of the time. Check. 22% of the time. If two pairs, spade draw, I think we can bet 70% of the time. Check. So yeah, just those random heads. Check. Wow, that's very hard. So the thing is that there are so many draws and possibilities here that it's hard to know what to do here. So yeah, it's kind of hard to know how is he constructing his range. So yeah, I think so. Yeah, you tend to check a pair plus a flush draw, but you tend to get made hands or good draws without a showdown value. 5 6 6. This is a perfect candidate to get out. This is a check call. Just a check. This, I think, backdoor spades, flush draw, gut shot, no showdown value. This is a perfect candidate to get out. Bet. This is just a bet. Okay, yeah. Betting because you are blocking all the flush draws. Not flush draw is used, but bet out. So backdoor spades, one gut shot, blocking a bit hearts, I think. Seriously. 5 5 6 were blocking with the sevens. We are blocking the 5 with our 7. This is a candidate to get out. Even without hearts, apparently. Mm, a pair of sixes, a gut shot for the 8. 7 8 9. That's not enough to bet. Seriously. So that we were not blocking. Check. We're blocking too much, apparently. Backdoor spades, open-ended. Very little showdown value. Bet. Okay, because we have the 6 and backdoor spades. This is just a check, I think. We're blocking too much the continuation range of our opponent. Backdoor spades, 3 4. Just a bet this. Bet. Backdoor spades, and we're blocking with a 4. We are blocking the continuation range of our opponent. We are blocking aces as well. And got shot a pair of sixes but 3 spades. Just betting. backdoor. That's not enough to bet this. We can see that. Okay, this 39. Maybe we should see that this 22%, 27%. This is not enough to see that. One gut shot and backdoor spades. I think we want to bluff. We're bluffing sometimes this hand. We're betting 30% of the time. We want to bluff this particular combo with very little showdown value at the moment. We are blocking nines. Check. So we are only betting 17% of our hands. What do we do with a 9? 30%. And 10 jack. 30%. Okay, so as we are only donking 15% of the time, we are going to bet with a 9 30% of the time and also with 10 jack. Okay guys, see you later.